Hey guys, Battleblood here. So, I don't necessarily have a vlog or anything. I guess you can call this an oral log, or an A-log or so. But, there's really not much to the show off in this one, and just writing about it, I mean, I could go on in about, I don't know, I could start a novel on this or so. But, uh, let me begin with what I'm about to talk about, and, you know, just to warn you, this is about the whole official site thing. So I mean, if you're tired of hearing about this, you feel like yeah, it's kind of a silly thing to even have to go over or to even address. If you understand that official status doesn't mean everything, then by all means, just you don't even have to listen to the rest of this. But for those of you that just feel that you've been wronged, if you feel troubled by all of this matter, or you just want to hear my thoughts on it, please feel free to stay, and I'll do my best to really go through this and share kind of my perspective. Now, first of all, I do want to start off because I noticed one Twizzard, perhaps, which is a wizard on Twitter. He's mentioned, and I honestly couldn't believe what was being said, but I won't point out his name and whatnot. But that all he wants is all he's aiming for is free items, free stuff. That, who doesn't want free stuff? And that everyone's entitled to it, etc. I mean, I'll agree. Okay, free stuff is great, but at the same time, that in reality, nothing is free. Even if it's a fake item, even if it's a virtual commodity of some sort. Because why? It took effort, it took brain power, it took education to even create some kind of tangible item like that. For example, King's Isle is not composed of just creative thinkers, but you have to have educated people basically program the game, write the game. You have to have economists or accountants as well to make sure that you're not just putting all your money into a product that you're working on, and then actually have that cost more than it'll ever bring back for you. I mean, instead of becoming doctors, instead of going out as law enforcement, instead of teaching, these people have went to school 4 years, got their bachelor's degrees. And I noticed that King's Isle does search for bachelor's degrees pretty heavily. And we want to make sure you have a lot of years of experience in what you're doing. Why? To ensure that you can provide this, AAA product that I think was what one has become. And you all can have different opinions on that, but to me, it's a great product because they've done their homework, quite literally and figuratively. I mean, King's Isle are composed of really great programmers and whatnot. The fact that J. Todd Coleman had started off working on something called I don't even know the name of that. I didn't give it much thought. But he started off in like an adult MMO, something you wouldn't kids might not find appealing, and something that parents may not want their kids playing. Started off in that. And you know what? That didn't work out. Right? I mean, he could have chosen up another career, but no, he took a different direction with that. And it was brilliant. Family-friendly games. Something where the adults can enjoy with the kids. Right? Now that took some thought. That took a little bit of risk. He already failed with one game, right? I mean, it worked for a while. But It showed them, hey, my product didn't come out the way that, that I guess the mainstream gaming world, um, it didn't come out the way that he expected it to, you know. But he took on a whole different direction here. Okay, so that took some thinking, that took some risk, resources, time. And here we go. Here we have Wizard 101, this great game. I mean, over what, 15 million players or so, and we have international players too. So it's not just a United States thing, even though that's where we do most of our advertising. But we've got players, even from Europe, from Asia, um, Africa, South America. Just players from all over before there's even an official Wizard 101 branch out there. I mean, sure, there's one in Germany right now, and you're over in Europe, but there were already players from Britain that were playing with us. For example, Spirit Shade, John Spirit Shade, who had joined up with us and has. I mean, if you look at his Ambrose to Zeke site itself, he keeps on going. I mean, he's a young player, but if you look at his work, if you look at his integrity, his dedication and whatnot, you can really see that this is a very solid player. That this player enjoys the game a lot and really wants to work on increasing the community's awareness and/or enjoyment of the game. And honestly, I have to say, from my perspective, he doesn't get that much recognition for it. Diary of a Wizard helps, as a sponsor, as a partner, but still, I think it could use a lot more views, a lot more appreciation and recognition and whatnot. But I mean, let's go back to the game now. It's created by a lot of players. I mean, not a lot of players, a lot of employees who, again, they're not going into the profession of medicine or law enforcement, criminal justice, etc. All these jobs that in society tend to have this positive dogma, this positive reception and whatnot. Instead, they're going into the entertainment business of gaming, and that takes years of schooling. You have to understand programming. You have to understand business. And so they put their lives into that, right? To create this product that we have, and so many of us are enjoying right now. Enjoying to the point where some of us are blogging about it. Some of us are running fan sites for it. I mean, thinking from where the game has evolved. I mean, you play Monopoly at home with your family. It's a multiplayer game, but it's not online. It can be nowadays. But I mean, where do you really go? How do you expand in Monopoly? Sure, you can develop strategies and share them online. That's great. But it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of resources and thought for Wizard 101 to be Wizard 101. First of all, it's an MMO. So it's going to expand. I mean, there is no ending story, I don't believe. I think if even they created their final world, that let's say that the great reception continues on in many, in a decade from now or so, and that there's still more interest. There's a lot of appeal to the game still. They're not just going to end it. They're obviously going to increase, the entertainment that they provide for us. So the reason why I'm diving into what it takes to make a great game is to also explain what it takes, to be a great community member as well. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort. But you know what? You're using their product. And so if, say, their community manager or whatever admin is behind choosing, which fan sites become official and whatnot, you have to consider that with a game of, well, with a game of this kind of quality, right? And I think it's a great quality. I've been over, just to share a little bit of background. I have a bias against games that, you know, provide microtransactions. I didn't used to believe in putting, money into virtual items or virtual entertainment, unless it was just a one-time buy deal. But before, I stuck with a lot of free MMOs. This is the first game that I've ever subscribed to, that I've ever pulled out a credit card for, you know, to pay in installments over time. And it took me about 10 or 20 minutes just sit there and think about it. Do I really want to? I mean, it's only $10, right, for 1 month. Why don't I just try that? And I almost didn't, but gave it a benefit of the doubt. You know what? Let's just give this game a chance. Went further, and here I still am, about over a year and a half later. So, there's something to this game. So again, a game with this kind of quality, the sites that are tied to it, okay, they've also have to follow some kind of great standard. Otherwise, if Wizard 101 just followed every single blog out there, and Fallon Deathwiz, or Fallon Stormwiz now, from Ravenwood Radio, made a great point before she got on her plane tonight, stating that if everyone's special, then no one's special. That also ties into a quote that had been made by Friendly, also tied to a quote made in The Incredibles from Disney. And so you have to start. I mean, it does create that kind of uncertainty, that kind of uneasiness for some people, where, okay, so then what counts as really special? What counts as official per se? And there's a lot of blogs. I really liked Autumnal Dusk's posts from Homework in a Graveyard, and Jessica Fairyheart's controversy post over at Pyromancer's Diary. And I know it's been reiterated a lot by a lot of other blogs, by a lot of tweets out there. But here's from my perspective, what makes a site really great and full quality. To me, what makes a site quote unquote official, or enough to be recognized by KingsIsle, that's really up to them, for them to decide. Now, before I go into just leaving it up to them, just feeling defeated about something, I do want to share some thoughts and some ideas, or some concepts at least, about the concept of these blogs and fan sites and tools. Okay, what's the purpose behind these? Why do they exist, and why are they recognized? Well, first of all, they weren't created for any goodies. As Kessel Shadow Thistle pointed out, she had been an official blog for over a year, and she's only ever been given about 2 freebies or so. This is, based on what she's written or posted. I mean, it's not like you become official and that entitles you to, give away. It doesn't entitle you to just codes all the time. Okay? First of all, like I said, these sites, these tools, were created as drivers, as vessels for getting the rest of the community that don't know about Wizard 101, or who have just started into it. These types of tools are created for the expansion of the community itself and expansion of the interest in the game. So what I mean by that is, well, let's just let's just create our first game, right? And let's just say that no one really likes it. And, I mean, we have a few players that find an interest in it, alright? And they start playing it. But do you really want to cater to just 10 people, to just 25 people, 40 people? Sure, it grows slowly, but you know what? If there is a way that you can allow for an again expansion of the community, those 40 people that are playing are going to understand that, oh, we don't always have to play with each other. It's not just going to be another small town. This is the internet. You're going to have players of all different ages, if the rating permits, players of all different types of backgrounds, and you're I mean, the more people that you're interacting with, the more unique that experience can become. You run into different personality types. You might run into stories that might help you, stories that make you laugh when you're having a bad time, or stories that just make you or inspire you to go ahead and take a hold of life, to take things seriously when you were always joking about things or always having fun and never really settling down on being mature and whatnot. Perhaps those interactions are really special and whatnot, and that's what comes out of a large community. You have experiences, you have you're enjoying the game, yeah, for the gameplay, but at the same time you're developing something a little special as well, a little bonus right there. And that can be friendship, that can be sentimental values associated with the game. Maybe this game was a relative's favorite, and now that relative is gone, and um, this is like your medium to kind of connect with them in a way, to remind you through nostalgia that this person isn't entirely gone. That some people do have some ties to this. It doesn't necessarily make it their entire life, no matter how much time they commit to it. But there's a reason that they're there for it. They're having fun. It helps them relieve stress. They can escape from harsh realities, and they can connect with others, whether they're still alive or they're not. So these fan sites, these tools, these blogs help accelerate that kind of community building. Oh, someone's writing about this. You can research more info on the internet. These fan sites are helping us out. Or they provide a different view on this game, and now I can approach it at a different angle with tips, with theories, and enjoy it in that way. These blogs are influential, especially Friendly Necromancers. These sites are helpful. They help you cut down on time on decision making, on planning and whatnot. For example, the Pet Gnome site shows you, oh, is this a pet I really want to breed with, especially if it's from the first generation? It has those talents in there that I may not like. Or, it has a talent that I really want, and I know one of my friends has these. Instead of asking every single friend, oh, does yours have Sprightly? Do you have any pets that have Sprightly? Etc. Those tools that you see, like the damage calculator. Again, you jump into the game and you realize, oh wow, you need some kind of skills here and there to really get a grasp for it. But here's the tool that'll help you with that. Save you some time, save you some brain power. So the benefit of a larger community, in a growing community that is that the game becomes less of a mystery. The more that you start to understand and grasp concepts of a game, or understand the data that's been collected, again, you save a bunch of time. Let's say you have a busy life, right? And you just log on just to enjoy and have fun and relax. But you don't always have that amount of time to really dive into the game. Well, with the community, there are others out there who are going to dive in for you, who are going to help you out. And this is why these blogs exist. They show you, hey, this is an item of interest. Maybe you want to look into crafting this item sometime. I really like it. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think this deserves some recognition here. Or, again, the fan site. Help you make decisions. Same with the tools. official status, okay, is gained when this site itself has made a tremendous impact, has made a I mean, you can dedicate as much time as you want into something, but it has to have some kind of reception too. It can't just be about, oh, I'm going to put all my time into a little something and expect something to come out of it. First of all, I just want to point out that when you start on projects and whatnot, don't start on them expecting to have rewards at the end. Don't other than helping others, other than being useful or creating some kind of direction, or at least have some kind of mission of yours that can be publicized. If being official is so important, right? Because of the goodies or because of the recognition, those things are really earned, okay? And I know some bloggers may find that like, okay, well, how does not committing all of my time, how does not trying, how does not putting in the effort of trying to expand that community and and the interest in the game, how is that not enough? How do I not deserve that or earn that? Because it doesn't seem like that my work is really doing anything for anyone. It doesn't like that my work is not appreciated and whatnot. You know what? Here's my advice. Don't think about what others will think of what you do. Okay? Do the things you do, whether it's blogging, running your site, or creating a tool. Do it because you love doing it. If you love writing, if you love sharing your adventures, right? If you can expect that nothing will come out of it other than your own pleasure, your own if you get a pleasure from helping others or sharing stories and whatnot, do it for that. Why? Why do things for the reason of loving the activity itself? Because then nothing can stop what you're passionate about. No matter how many people don't see eye to eye with you or don't agree with you, as long as you have that integrity, as long as you have that determination and that kind of honor and whatnot, then really it'll never be conflicting for you. So blog, but if you don't get comments, if you don't get followers, if you don't get any recognition for it, who cares, right? Because you love blogging itself. That shouldn't stop you from doing that. It's the same reason why we even joined up in the game in the first place, right? We joined the game because, wow, hey, this is appealing to us. We didn't join it thinking, well, we're going to get free stuff eventually, right? Wizard 101 doesn't make any promises of that. I don't think there are any guys out there that say, well, if you wait about a year, there's going to be something waiting for you. Guild Wars has that system. That's great. I think it's a wonderful thing that maybe KingsIsle can think about. It may increase, about maybe a third. No, not a third, but taking a fifth of the amount of current players right now. I think that's how many more people you'll get if you implement some kind of time system. But that's for theory crafting. That's another topic. But it's not like we joined the game and expected, oh, we're going to get something for some kind of investment in time over this. No, we joined the game because we enjoy, we joined the game because we enjoy it. Because, wow, we like card dueling. That's what Wizard 101 is about, okay? And I know that doesn't relate to projects, but let me get to that afterwards. You PvP, I guess maybe to get the arena gear, but you can't use the arena gear outside. You can get the pets. That's an incentive right there to PvP, to get those PvP pets, or derby race, or hatch pets at all, just to create better gear in a way. But it's not like you're getting freebies out of it. Instead, you're putting in resources, you're putting in time for what kind of return? For entertainment, right? not for some kind of advancement, not some kind of goodie or freebie in the game. So apply that same perspective when it comes to running your site or your blog or whatever it is. Who cares? Let me jump back to the gaming part. Who cares? Why you play Wizard 101? If you play it because you enjoy it, that's fair enough. And if other people don't like you for playing it, then I just have to say, do you really have to care about that? I mean, if the game isn't harming your life, if the game's not taking away, all your time and whatnot, and you can manage your time, you can manage resources, fine. You know, it doesn't really matter what they say, right? And so, what's gonna stop you from playing Wizard 101? If people are trying to discourage you from playing, then how is that really enjoyable at all anymore? But you know what? Can those people really have that effect on you? Can what those people say really affect how you feel about Wizard 101? I mean, oh, this game is kind of childish, but you understand. I mean, especially if you PvP, you can understand this game it has a lot of dimensions. It is for younger audiences, but it's also interesting enough for older audiences. And I'm included in the older audience especially. And again, diving into a little background, I've done some hardcore gaming. Hardcore in the sense of I've been on teams. I've been playing for games that make World of Warcraft players look like angels. And you World of Warcraft players know what I'm talking about. In a way of how that metaphor, of how powerful that metaphor can be. And here I am now playing Wizard 101, not just necessarily as the aftermath of my retirement from the gaming, like the professional gaming scene, but it's also a way for me to relax, a way for me to explore into something different. And you know what? I find complexity in this game. I enjoy what I'm looking at within this product. I I like card dueling. I like the concept of chance and whatnot. And if my buddies out there who are playing, StarCraft 2 and Call of Duty and etc., if they have a problem against that, that's not going to stop. I mean, they can make all the insults they want. They can say anything that they want about this game. But you know what? That's not going to make, my experiences with it any different. Because for what I've felt with this in this game, what I've perceived, is much more powerful than what a few comments and spoken words will ever do. Because Wizard 1 has shown itself, its capabilities, its entertainment values and levels, to me personally. Okay, so apply that. Who cares if KingsIsle doesn't recognize your blog? Who cares if they don't recognize your fan site? And who cares if others don't recognize it either? Stick with it. Do it because you love it. Don't enter into something that you feel like, oh, you're going to regret it, or you feel that if this doesn't get enough reception, then it's really not worth doing. Right? I mean, I started up Mistblood, the comic, and I really enjoyed doing that, but at the same time, there are other projects that I've started enjoying so much that I just don't have time. I haven't. Okay, I've received a lot of positive reviews on there, and therefore that's kind of a sign to maybe keep on going if people are enjoying Mistblood. But for me, I'm enjoying doing a lot of other projects. I'm enjoying working on my own blog and writing articles or doing vlogs itself, and sharing experiences, tips, ideas, or diving deep into something like this right now, or Pet Gnome. I love working with a team and being able to accomplish something, set a goal and a mission and reach that. Pet has 20 abilities. Reveal all of that. that's great. And that's just helping out the community has always been a big part of a lot of my MMO gaming history. And I want to pull out something that I want to read out here because it's something that I've written to remind me of what I've done before. And one of my let's see, let me pull it up here. Sorry, I don't. Okay, here it is. So I used to play. Again, I know this is a long, I guess, a soapbox or so. But if you're still here, I'm glad. I'm glad that I'm definitely improved on my communication, but also that at least I have a message right here that if you're still listening, then I'm doing a pretty good job here on basically making some valid points and whatnot. I'm guessing. Otherwise, you're probably just trying to listen and wait until I get to a valid point. But I kind of doubt that. But who knows? So anyways, I do have to dig into something before, because this will show just, that it's not just been with Wizards of 101, but I've done this with other games too. And this is exactly what helps me understand. This is exactly what helps me perceive these different concepts that I've shared so far. And I used to play Guild Wars, as I mentioned before, and I did something just out of the random, out of the blue. I decided, you know what? I'm going to stay in pre-searing, which is, kind of the beginning area of the game, and find a way to get people interested in this game again. It's been about, let's see, when did I write this? It was in 2008, okay? And Guild Wars has been out since 2005. So it was about about 3 years after the game's release, and I returned after a hiatus, and I saw, okay, well, there's not too much activity going on here. A lot of people have been moving on. Maybe they got into WoW, maybe they got into Dota, etc. And I felt, this is kind of dull. People aren't interacting with each other. People aren't. There's really no interest in expanding other people's interests. For example, let's say someone decided to wait 3 years after the game's release to buy it because they've heard that it's great from word of mouth, and they enter this game and they see this community that just is so dull, that is kind of silent a lot of the time. That, oh, well, what's all the hype about, right? So just seeing that kind of environment made me feel like, okay, well, let's kick this up. Let's make this fun in a way. Let's bring up the energy. So I created something called the Answers for Gold, which is basically, a lot of the pro players, a lot of the players who have just retired from the later parts of the game and decided that they want to explore more of the beginning parts. I wanted to, in a way, kind of feel their interest in staying within the beginnings. And so I created something called Answers for Gold. And basically what I would do is ask trivia questions that they could answer, and basically give, as the name implies, just give them gold for it. And gold in Guild Wars is kind of hard to farm. You have to get loot, you have to sell that, and then sometimes the return isn't that great, so you have to go into the instances again, farm it, sell the items only. You don't necessarily get gold all the time, and if you do get gold, it's usually in small amounts. And so building gold, it's a tough commodity to kind of harvest or farm for. So it took a lot of donations from the community, to give us some items, to give us some gold to give out. But I started around May or so of 2008, and I ran into one of the players who had a lot of the perks. His gear was just completed and whatnot, and he didn't know me at all, but he gave me an item, and it benefited me a lot. And he did not. Again, he didn't know me, That fueled my interest in the game. That made me wonder, okay, I feel a little bit more powerful now. Through this item. He didn't give me any tips really. He didn't really help me out in the long run. He gave me a fish to last me for a week. And I could have maybe used some guidance so that I could last for months and months and months of playtime. But yeah, he gave me an item, and that just, wow, he didn't even know me. And that kind of inspired me to also do that to start up answers for gold and start just ask questions. Doesn't take a fee of any sort, and if they get it right, just call up the first person that got it and give them their prize. You know what? And my reasoning behind that was that items. Here, I'll read a quote from the email that I wrote to explain the whole concept behind this, because a lot of people did ask me, what's the purpose of holding answers for gold? So I wrote, in the world of free giveaways, it is rare that those whom receive will become companions for the sake of pure friendship with those who give. Most tend to create weak bonds in order to secure their finances rather than secure an alliance. So I didn't get anything back from my personal use or gain. Even though there are some items that I could have used from the donations, I only expected to find them on my own through some random occurrences, through some random drops. What I had initially planned, and still have as a goal, is to broaden the minds of others to start thinking with the philosophy of the very first words I wrote. And what I had wrote in this email was, there is always something to hold on to, and there is always something to give away. More specifically, I am hoping to indirectly reflect upon you as Prophet Feik, who is the person who gave me the item. The idea that all materials in the game, including gold, are irrelevant to making the game easier or enjoyable. Many are so intimidated by the many are so intimidated or inspired by pricey, complex armor and weapons that have begun to hoard as much as they can, since they've set those materials of war as their goal. With individual competition in the Guild Wars economy, scams and dishonesty have flourished. New players mistakenly have traded or sold or bought something which they later regret doing as they come upon future helpful or strategic information. Successful players have made similar mistakes even while trying to avoid them. Everyone has run into at least one situation where they close their eyes and drive their head into something and repeatedly think to themselves, I wish someone had told me this before I did it. So with Answers for Gold, I strive to silently spread through every player that I have been where you have been. And we all still have yet to be in the place where we want to be. But it's important to set aside these personal goals and realize that, like in real life, we ourselves aren't the main characters where everything is wrapped around. Make time for anyone who needs it, rather than farm all the time alone. Most of us wish to get a jump start on our income for those personal goals, but that would require something from someone else. If everyone were to stick to their own path, such shortcuts and save time could and would not happen. So that was a reference to, the point of of an MMO is for a community to build, to grow strong together, to find out all these tips. Look at Pet Gnome. If we all worked individually to find out what the 20 abilities are, we're probably still stuck with trying to figure out what one pet is at this point in time. But thanks to the community working together. For what? Not for freebies, but to understand the game a lot better. That helps everyone in the long run. That helps new players, that helps old players. These freebies, these gifts that KingsIsle gives out to the recognized sites and whatnot, they don't help anyone necessarily. But let me get to those gifts let me get to those giveaways, or those codes that KingsIsle does give to sometimes gives their official sites. Let me get to that later, a little bit later on. But you have to understand that, behind the game and whatnot, you have to realize, okay, build your community first. Contribute something. And don't assume that it's always going to be enough. There's always something to do. So, and together as a team, as a whole community, you can really accomplish a lot out there than someone on their own. That's the most important thing you have to remember. And the reason why these blogs and fan sites and tools exist, to increase our population in a way. To ensure that Wizard 101 isn't that game where only 20 players still play it. I mean, new players would join and they would think, where's everyone? Why is this so desolate? But no, we don't have that. You can sign into most of our realms and it's pretty busy. There's activity everywhere. There's players running around. This makes you feel that this game is lively, that it's interesting, that there are players here for a reason. And that reason is, hey, this is entertaining. This is worth our time, rather than for some other game, right? So to continue a little bit with the email, I don't think Answers for Gold would have ever been born if I hadn't met Feik and received that free boost from him. So my whole point was that thanks to the contributions, thanks to the effort, okay? I mean, Answers for Gold, I was giving things out, from donations from others. There wasn't any gain. NCSoft, or at least the company behind Guild Wars, didn't recognize that. But what did I care? I only cared about, hey, let's kick up the activity in this game. Let's make it more enjoyable. Let's give it a different perspective for others to look through. And maybe try to spark something new. I mean, it's kind of like trying to maintain a relationship, or a marriage. Not that I know anything about it, but I hear the tips of saying, you always have to relight that spark. You always have to make it interesting, and not so dull. Try to keep away from repetition. And this is exactly what the fan sites and Wizard 101 blogs and whatnot do. Again, expanding the interest, expanding the activity and the energy within the game, the enthusiasm. And to close with this, I hope that the gold that I've given out has helped someone redeem their gaming experience with Guild Wars, like recovering from a lie that they were given by another player, or to make up for that rune they bought when they didn't pay attention to the non-stacking note. I plan for my actions to echo through these districts, but without loud propaganda or advertisement. I know there are some people out there who run through the same path that I have and figured these things out on their own. This discovery for me has been more than a pleasure, and it adds to why I continue to host games or trivia questions in public rather than hold these events privately, as many of you have asked me to. So maybe one day, instead of saying willing to trade or willing to sell dominate the trade box, you might even see a willing to give for a change. So, I mean, that's just who I am. And so when approaching, with PetGnome, when approaching creating this site that ended up becoming official. Now, let me explain the whole purpose of being official. That yes, we did seek official status, but there was a purpose behind that. It wasn't to gain more followers. It wasn't to gain recognition. I mean, we had a pretty good sized base. But at the same time, like I said, in order to make the game more enjoyable, in our case, in order to understand what these pets have within their pet gnome or within their gene pool, you need the help of the community with that. And some of you know that there was some history between me and another site runner that in about a year ago, and how that conflicted. How there's some reason there was a conflict of interest of wanting to help the community. So anyways, went on my own still, regardless of what that player said, or regardless of how that player treated our ideas in the site, we went ahead and did it anyway. And I'm glad that we didn't stop just because we didn't get good reception from the that site owner. And look at Petnome now. I mean, so the point of the official status was because of that conflict. We were really only receiving just reception from a little of the community. We weren't really going to be able to um, follow through our mission to complete these pet gnomes without the help of a bigger community and whatnot. And so official status was not just for recognition. In fact, it wasn't even just for recognition. We were already sponsored a lot by Ravenwood Radio, by a lot of the blogs and bloggers, and I personally want to thank you guys for that, for helping us out, for getting the word out there, for sponsoring us and mentioning about us. It really helps. It really helped, and it really helps. We had Twitter going, and some gaming sites, not specific just to Wizard 101, but gaming overall, have written about us too, and that's helped tremendously. So the recognition part was already there, but the access part, the official status would help Pet Gnome complete its mission. Well, it won't really ever complete its mission because pets are always going to be released. There are always going to be pets to be researched and looked into and dissected, I guess, but not literally. No pets were harmed ever in Pet Gnome. But through the official status, it really helped us gain more viewers, which then drove Pet Gnome to complete up to about, I think we're at like 86 pets right now, completed Pet Gnomes, and this is not, this is including like copies of different pets too. There are some pre-update pets, there are some after, post-update pets, gift card pets that change without any notice from KingsIsle, new pets that happen to come out in the test realm and or live realm, holiday pets, etc. Helping the community decide, is this really worth my my time in hatching with or buying, etc. I mean, our main intention was just to understand these pets, and if you click on the link where it says, this is first seen, first mentioned on Friendly Necromancer's blog, Miguel Wildthorn, let me go into a little bit of the history. I'm not going to give you too many details, but Miguel Wildthorn had figured out, the concept behind Pet Gnomes. He brought that to Friendly Necromancer. And the Friendly Necromancer said, hey, we need someone to step up and take on this. Okay? We need a team out there. And there were a lot of people, there are a few a decent number of people that agreed with this, but no one really, they were giving out ideas, but no one really took up a step. And so when I did, and I partnered up with Miguel Wildthorn and created something, just so then there was a presence of it being created, of Pet Gnome being real, solidified basically. And then when I started pulling in team members, that I knew I could rely on, that I knew that wouldn't just up and leave necessarily, that would definitely commit what they could to the site. I chose them, and there wasn't any idea of being official just for the prizes and whatnot, just for the recognition. It was just about understanding pets, right? So with that, even if KingsIsle, didn't recognize us as official at all, that wouldn't have stopped us from being Pet Gnome. And I think that's one of the greatest strengths that actually, quite ironically, made us official in the first place. That even though we didn't have that domain name requirement or whatnot, that hey, we did what we did. It didn't stop us from again contributing. It didn't stop our work. We trudged on through, no matter Who said like, oh, you'll never be official because you gotta get rid of the PB Works part? Um, I mean, there was some discouragement. There was a lot of support, but there was some discouragement too. Some people didn't find Pet Gnome to they found it like, oh, it's kind of a waste of time or a waste of space or whatever. That didn't stop us, and that didn't really anger us or anything, because we felt, hey, you can believe what you want to believe, but we like doing these pets. We like figuring out pets. And again, that passion that you have, you have to have passion in what you're doing. Because if you're just creating your blog, right, you're writing it, you love writing, etc., and then you want to become official, don't think about becoming official. Even though it says, submit your sites if you would like to be recognized or so. So many people have been trying to do that, just for a little more, just for a few more followers maybe, or just to again be in the spotlight. But if everyone did that, then we're gonna need a lot of spotlights. I'll tell you that. So they had to up the ante on the guidelines over time. That's why the rules changed here and there, and now it's to a point where, don't even send us any fan sites anymore, because a lot of people have figured out, oh, I just need to do this, I just need to do that, and I'll be official. Okay, and quite recently, again with the giveaways, with the Massive Fantasy Palaces, and now the Sultan Palaces and the Mountain giveaway codes, that gave an incentive for people to become official. So that goes totally against the overall concept in the first place. Correct? About what does it mean to be a fan site? What does it mean to be a blog? No, it's not for the benefits. It's not for the goodies, but it's because it's what we love to do, right? Why do you game in Wizard 101? Well, it's to make sure I dedicate all my time so I can get the freebies. No, not at all. And Sierra Sarsong, made a great direct message to me, pointing out that these that the complaints about being official and whatnot, and how certain fan sites are getting benefits, how that's very reminiscent of going into the comments and begging for a mount. And again, don't tie it too seriously. Don't say that that's entirely equivalent. But the overall point here is, because everyone wants one. Because, again, it's all, it's why did you join Wizard 101 in the first place? If it was just about the mounts, if you just want to stand in the comments and beg for a mount, then, as an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours go by, what have you really accomplished? Nothing. When you could have used that to actually enjoy the card playing, maybe get some more experience from to level up. There's really no point in I'm sorry, there's no point in just trying to gain official status just to be official. Whoop-de-doo. That takes work, and that takes effort. And even though you put work and effort, it also takes energy and a lot of passion. You have to do something, regardless of what anyone says, if you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, if you feel like you want to quit blogging, if you feel like you want to quit Wizard 101, that's your choice, and I'm not trying to strive to hold anyone back, because you have to think about this way. The people behind Wizard 101 who have made this game so great enough that you even want to talk about it, that you even want to blog about it, that you want to become official for it. And let's just say you're not doing it for the prizes or the giveaways, the freebies, then their opinion doesn't necessarily have to matter to you, in terms of your hobby and whatnot. Okay? But think about it this way, that the people behind the game itself who have made this game so great for you to, again, write about and whatnot, they've set their standards high. And that's why we enjoy this game, right? So if they set their standards for official status to be high, and they make their judgments here and there, if you can trust KingsIsle to make this game that's so enjoyable for you, then you have to realize that their judgment and what sites become official is also within that same judgment right there. That same judgment that made, for example, Mushu, Dragonspire, Grizzle. Well, Grizzleheim has an exception, but now it has Winter Tusk. So yeah, Winter Tusk, Celestia, and the Brisbary's Tower, where you gotta trust that same judgment that created those enjoyable instances and or worlds, right? Otherwise, you're just comparing, you know, it feels like you're comparing apples to oranges when really you're looking at the same apples that you enjoyed the entire way. And I know you're feeling, oh well, this apple doesn't appreciate me for what it is. Then, why do you want to seek that out? Go ahead and play with some oranges instead. And if you don't like the taste of that apple, you don't have to keep eating it, right? And so those of you that say, you want to quit, I originally I feel I had felt that, maybe they need some inspiration, they need something to keep holding them back. But you know what? I realize that it's okay, and I'm sorry to say this, that it's okay to lose out on some community members. Not that I have any in mind, because this is just aimed at an umbrella of a certain type. And it's basically, if you're not enjoying the game for the game, and you're not blogging because you want to blog, because you want to write about things, without any kind of rewards, without any kind of return for you. If you want to create your fan site with, again, no return to you, or you want to create that tool site with, once again, I know, broken record, with no return to you, then do it. Then stay with it. Because, again, like I mentioned, if you're passionate about something, you're not going to ever want to stop doing it. And that's not going to ruin the game for you. That's not going to ruin your enjoyment. Who cares what others say, right? Especially if you're really into it. If you're really passionate about something, and nothing else can really stop you from doing it, then you're in a way invincible. I mean, just to say it like that. But if you feel that, you're not appreciated, you feel that it's everything to want to be official, that it's everything to get freebies and whatnot, then you really have to play your game up a bit. And by game, I mean, you really have to put a lot more effort. You really have to have some different goals in there, especially if that's all you want. Pet Gnome itself, let me explain. We did get codes for those Sultan Palaces this time. Let me tell you, when we got official status, okay, a few months later, the Massive Fantasy Palaces came out. Not one code was sent to us. And I figured, you know what? That makes some sense. Sure, it felt kind of dull for a bit. It's like, oh wait, how come all the other official sites got it? But you know what? That's not what Pet Gnome was created for in the first place. Second, hey, we're a Pet Gnome team. This is an effort created between various different types of people, whereas other sites or other blogs were run by one or two people or so. With the exception of Central, which is run by perhaps, I think, a family, or if I'm not mistaken. But that they put their resources, they put their time and energy and whatnot into that site. So if they're receiving multiple items, they deserve it. And I hate to use that word deserve or entitled, because then you start questioning in the gray areas. Well, what can I do to deserve something? And then now you're really contradicting the point of what makes them entitled or deserving of whatever it is. I hope you're still following. In other words, what makes them, what makes any site or blog eligible or worthy or so of these freebies is the fact that they're not looking for them, that they started up because it was from their own energy, from their own passion, that they weren't after official status, that there were so many different sites sparking up. I'm guessing that the community manager wanted to, pick, let's pick out the ones that are really shining, the ones that maybe people are jumping on the bandwagon of blogging because it's the coolest thing to do, but let's go ahead and pick out the ones that are really shining, that are really that have really good points, are really helpful for our new players and or old players as well. So that came on, and then now it was about, oh, let's just blog and let's write helpful hints and comments and whatnot that we know. So they had to increase the standards a little bit more. Okay, well, we have a lot of great blogs now that give great tips or share stories or try to prolong the interest of a player within the game. So now they have to again add, okay, another requirement and another requirement. Again, trying to ensure that the sites that they pick are indeed special. And I'm sorry that maybe your site wasn't accepted and you felt like someone else didn't deserve that. But again, if you don't like their judgment, if you don't like what they choose, then maybe this game isn't for you. Maybe KingsIsle is not for you, not a company for you to invest your money in still, or receive entertainment from. I hope that makes some sense right there. Again, think back to your roots here. You joined Wizard 101. Why? I mean, what are crowns going to do for you? Let's say you joined it because it said you would get free crowns. Well, first of all, you didn't even know what crowns were in the first place before you joined it. Oh, this is free, right? And what am I going to do with it? Oh, I can do this. Oh, I can prolong my interest in the game a little bit more. All right, that's great. But for the majority of us, we joined it because someone else said it was interesting. We found it interesting ourselves. We liked the concepts. There's so many things, but it was not, again, for the freebies. It was not, again, for recognition. It was an entertainment, right? So, I've gone over about an hour on this, and again, like I said, I could sit down and if I really pumped out a lot of time and started writing paragraphs about this, I could write novels. And so I'm trying to voice this out so I can get it all out, and not have to stick to text form, right? So I hope you started your blog, because right now we've gotten to the point where there are so many blogs that are trying to obtain that official status that they're forgetting the overall concept behind the official status thing. That it's more than just a label. That's more than just a piece of recognition, but it's to say, hey, these sites have really stood out. These sites have really put in a lot of work. Okay, sure, you can write things for over a year, but did it help a lot of people? Did it influence a lot of players to join up? Did it prolong their interests? Anyone can just blog, and maybe you get stuck into this trend about writing about your own adventures, right? What your own accomplishments are. And maybe that's inspiring to some people who feel like, oh, I need something to do in the game, right? Or I want to complete this challenge because it's there and this person has done it. But let's say that those don't exist, right? You shouldn't be writing your stories to try to inspire people necessarily. You're writing it because you want to, right? So, again, players that have been blogging for over a year or so, don't quantify it. And don't try to look at the quality necessarily as well. You want to put the two together, and then you want to add a third layer of understanding, of tolerance, of integrity. And I brought up integrity a couple of times because that word means, integrity, the capacity, the value of acting a certain way in all cases, whether you are aware that people are looking at you, or when you're in private. You don't change, who you are. You don't change your mission, your overall goals, based on your current audience. That's kind of what integrity is. You gotta have that. To again, don't seek for official status. Don't seek for the label. Don't seek for the materials, which are the free goods. Because that, I assure you, is what ends up, kind of backfiring on those who are seeking for it. Fan sites get recognized because most fan sites. I can't say for sure that I know that all fan sites and blogs kind of follow this. I haven't really looked too much into it, but at the same time, I've kind of dealt with it a bit before in the past, and now seeing this once again, I want to point out that fan sites became official because of because they weren't seeking for the official status in the first place. Sure, you had to fill out an email and say, hey, I guess we do want to be recognized. But it wasn't, especially for Pet Gnome, that wasn't our main goal, was to get more viewers or to get the freebies itself. It was to complete our mission of, hey, if we can get more people, we can really complete a lot more pets. We can help more of the community with the more people that are involved in contributing, or submitting info to us. That was the overall idea there. And again, as I said, as a team, I didn't expect for King's Isle to ever give us anything. I was surprised. Wow, we got to participate in the Mount Week. But you know what? A lot of other blogs are doing that too. And that is so awesome to give someone, some faster transportation or some kind of mount that they just didn't have. Let's say that you farmed up gold to like 100,000, 200,000. You just felt, you know what? I'm spending all of this money on furniture or on pets that I just don't have enough time and or resources to get myself yet another mount. And so when we were given those proud lions there to give away, that was definitely an honor. And you know what? That does, just giving away the mounts does not necessarily benefit Pet Gnome in a way. We got 2 free mounts, but you know what? I ended up giving those away as well, whether it was in a drawing or just randomly. So again, those proud lions don't do anything for Pet Gnome. Those benefits don't do anything for Pet Gnome's mission, which is to complete pets, and that was our main focus right there. It helped bring in, more recognition, and it helped us further our mission, like I say, a lot, but I figure at this point, with all these explanations, you should understand at this point. With a bigger community, for us, the Mount Week helped us, and it's brought back, some past submitters, brought in new ones, really helped us, figure out these level 58 pets that we've been completing lately. We only have 2 more at this point. Helped us complete some other pets as well. Helped us receive donations of mega snacks and elixirs from yet a bigger community of donators for the test realms. So, Mount Week was an honor, and again, we didn't have any personal gain for it, and I just felt like, okay, well, this is awesome that we got the codes, but we're actually meant to give these out, which is perfectly fine with me. I'm used to that, through the Guild Wars thing. And so when we actually got the Massive Fantasy, not the Massive Fantasy Palace, I'm sorry. In fact, let me talk about that. I think I have, but I'm losing track of time here. But when the Massive Fantasy Palaces came out, and Pet Gnome the Pet Gnome project had been official for a few months. We didn't receive it. It didn't phase us. It didn't make me feel any differently about KingSal or about what we were doing. Right? I mean, I figured, hey, with the team, that's a lot of massive fantasy palaces to go around. There's probably no way that KingSal would ever give that to us, which is understandable. I mean, we're not even there for it in the first place. So, kept on working. Kept on doing it. Just, hey, we're in it for the community's sake. Whatever. And now, actually getting these codes for our Sultan palaces and stuff, it just makes a lot more sense, in our direction and whatnot. It's just, wow, thank you for thanking us, But you have to think about this at the same time. Our mission, again, at Pet Gnome, is about the pets. These palaces, right? They don't help us in any way. Getting these free houses and whatnot, it doesn't help us complete any more pets. It doesn't reach out to necessarily more submitters or more contributors. It probably would call out for a lot more offers, to join the team and to help and whatnot. But then we have to get really selective. And I had been selective after seeing, the uproar about the massive fantasy palettes. I felt, oh wow, I need to be careful about choosing teammates here. And and that's exactly what KingSal is going through right now. We have to be careful about picking fan sites. We can't just create generic rules for fan sites to follow, because now we actually have to use our own judgment and I'm sad to say, cherry pick from their own, instead of having thousands of sites being sent in to be recognized, as official and whatnot, to be appreciated, I guess, in more eyes. That KingSal needs to take up that job to actually do their research, to do their homework, and look at the sites that do, uphold to the standards and qualities that they're looking for in that site. Because now it's become, honestly, about the free items or about the recognition. And that just totally turns the community around. That there's some kind of incentive to do something other than, as I said at the beginning, prolonging interest in the game for other players, or prolonging the interest, or actually expanding the community. When you put those two things together, an expanded community and growing interests, then that's exactly why Wizard 101 is so powerful and so successful. And for a while they did feature sites, and they did feature Friendly's blog, and it's just got to the point where we can't feature those anymore, where they aren't able to just spotlight something, because when that item is spotlighted, then I don't really understand the whole decision just yet. I haven't really dove into those kinds of thoughts. But let's just think about it this way, that Friendly Necromancer, and I'll admit I'm biased in this opinion, but also I've talked with him about some behind the scenes things within his life, within his gaming life as well, that it's kind of discouraging and whatnot. It's kind of a little heartbreaking, I guess, just a little bit. You don't want to take this too seriously, but it is kind of concerning that even the man who inspired a lot of his blogs to start up blogging, right? That he's no longer featured as the main thing. He's now just another one of the sites that are just listed, and you have to sometimes scroll down to find him. It is a randomized list now. The fact that you have to even search before you can find this Friendly Necromancer that used to be at the that used to be in the spotlight itself. I guess maybe it got to the point where people were just creating blogs because they wanted to be recognized, because they wanted some kind of position within the community. And that's not what the game was about. That's not what the projects were all about. It was about helping the community, not helping oneself. not driving one's own ambitions and or goals. And I think a lot of the community nowadays has lost sight of that they feel their self is entitled to something. And I mean, no, this wasn't what it was a year ago. You know, Ravenwood Radio, bustling with activity. A lot of players sharing tips and info over Twitter. I hardly saw any complaints over there. You know, and if there were any complaints at all, it would have been underground. It would have been in direct messages. It would have been maybe over Skype. But not, not just out in Twitter like that. You know, sure, you feel angry and you need to rant and stuff. You know, and then I guess maybe some people are getting criticized for writing about it in their blogs. You know what? I just want to say, keep on writing. It doesn't matter what other people are necessarily saying about it, whether your blog is constructive or destructive. But keep doing it, because that's you, right? That's what you enjoy doing. You're not necessarily out there just to make a statement, but you're doing it because you like it, or you actually want to point out something. And if let me tell you, there are always going to be people that disagree with you. You have to expect that. There are always going to be people that may want to conflict with your interests. Maybe they're not getting your point on purpose for some kind of personal gain, or some kind of I don't know, some hubris out there. So expect. It's not a perfect world. So, you have to expect that. So again, going back to Friendly, it just stinks that again. He was at the top right there, and it was just proud to see, hey, we have someone like that in the community who can write about the game for over 2 years, talk about his family, share all the things he's had, to just be another link on the page, amongst the other blogs. But it's gotten to that point where it is necessary, I suppose, because I guess a lot of players now have felt inspiration from Friendly for the wrong reasons. I felt inspiration from Friendly to document my contemplations, my thoughts, analyses, just because there was so many things that weren't being said or weren't being explored, that I felt I need a place to put where my thoughts are, and if people have an interest, that's cool. But just because people, let's say that I still have 0 followers on the Chilanthropologist, who cares? I know my friends are going to be reading it from the game. Those who do read it but don't comment, I know that they're listening. I know that they're interested for a reason. And if they don't leave anything, if they don't follow anymore, well, then there's something that doesn't interest them there. But that shouldn't stop me from doing what I like to do. Another great example I have to bring up is, look at my YouTube channel, right? I get a lot of subscribers lately and whatnot, but the bulk on there was a lot of tips, a lot of guides in a way, and then my PvP commentaries. But you know what? I'm never going to make anything out of that. In fact, my own blog is not an official site. I've only tried once to do it, and it was way before Petnome even started up. I just said I sent it into the community manager, and they replied hey, you didn't meet this, the standard. And I said, okay, that's fine. And it's not like I gave up on trying, okay? But I felt that, this isn't what they're looking for, but I shouldn't I'm not going to stress out about it. And, I guess I could try again, but I'm not going to bother. And it's not necessarily because we already have a fan site and therefore I don't need another one. But it's because I'm not, I'm going to trust their judgment. I'm not going to worry about official status. I mean, it's just a label. And let me tell you, if your blog gets out there by word, by word of mouth, or by recognition, or by cross-referencing. If someone just even links to your blog, that's way more than official status. That's another player out there who may or may not be competing with your blog, who may have different interests and views, who want you to get recognized, who want you to basically stand out, I guess, to be referenced to, whether it's for your expertise or for some great points that you've made. And I think that's hey, that's the most important thing there. Official status. Sometimes people don't even go to look at the fan sites. They just want to enjoy the game, and when they type in the Google search, let's see how many times a certain result pops up. And let's say you have obtained official status, and I can say this about one of the sites that I've seen. Let's say that you attain official status, but you don't do anything anymore. You're not active. You're not making any effort to increase the interest and or the community in the game. Then what? Who's going to recognize you then? You're going to be listed on the official fan sites, but no one can really give you a good reference, or no one can really deem you as credible, or trustworthy and whatnot. So, work, if you want recognition, if that's what you strive for, don't look for the official status. Because first of all, you have to pass through King's Isle judgment. And if you can't trust them to make the right judgments, if you can't trust them to make the right decisions, then it's maybe time to find another game. It's maybe time to find another company. But if you can, deal with what they say and whatnot, and just keep on doing what you do, keep on doing what you love, and let other people speak for you, rather than you feeling entitled to a certain kind of recognition, then you're really going to go very far. And you know what? Maybe you might even become official in the end. But again, that's not something you should be seeking for, because let me tell you, again, that searching for it will eventually backfire in some way. So, I've been over this is about an hour and a half. This is probably like one of the longest vlogs or blogs that I've ever written that wasn't PvP related. Again, there's just so much to really point out here. And I don't know if I've really gotten to everything, but I think I've really poked at it and prodded it long enough. If you have questions, if you're curious about anything, feel free to leave a comment. Feel free to, send an email to me, kevinbattleblood@hotmail.com. If you don't want to leave your comment out in the view and like that, but you still want some feedback, you still want some answers, write it to me, and I'll be happy to answer those, whether publicly or privately. But again, I have to stress this once again, because I honestly don't want to hear I know this is kind of a personal request right here, but I think I would be speaking for a lot of the community. I think I would be speaking for a lot of the old community that we did know from a year ago. And it's that, don't let official status be everything to you. Let your hobbies, let your passions, and let what you enjoy doing be your main interests. And heck, if you're not sure what your hobbies are, look for ways to help the community itself, whether it's helping out another fan site. For Petnum's example, submitting, info and whatnot. That'll help us really, and we give recognition for that. We give credit to those who are actually training their pets and sending in info. And we'll list you, definitely. There's nothing wrong. We don't have anything against that. And don't take it personally. Again, don't let other people's expectations or their judgments be your dogma in a way. I hope that makes some sense because right now it is 2:40 a.m. But just after seeing the post today and going back and forth, and just feeling something does need to be said, something needs to be explored here, and I need to incorporate experiences and perspectives, and I guess my own judgments and whatnot, to try to help this matter, to try to help us grasp, and try to reclaim something that has been missing for a very long time. But if you can, again, if you can really commit to that, if you can uphold that integrity and that dedication to the game without letting others' judgments or opinions or whatever it is affect you in what you do, then you're not going to end up being unhappy. You're not going to be disappointed. The only time you should feel that way is when you've actually quit because of something, because of an influence in a way. That, hey, for some reason your personality or your perspective has changed about yourself or what you're doing. And therefore you feel the need to terminate it because it just isn't you. And it I guess for some people it takes skill to be someone that they're not. But let me tell you, it's really not worth the effort to try to pretend to be someone you're not, to try to set goals and missions and try to cover that up with some other motives. That never, well, I can't really say never, I don't know from experience, but I doubt that it could ever really turn out that great in the end. That someone's bound to find out eventually, whatever that is that you're hiding, or like your true nature just kind of pops out and is apparent, or because your interests are not, your passion is not focused on your interest in helping the community, that certain people recognize that, and then you act too defensively, and then you start to act in ways that contradict, your mission and or who you really are, who you've been trying to pass off as. So, be yourself. Don't start something that you don't feel comfortable with. Just because you feel, oh, it'll help me gain something later on. The only thing that it should gain is, your pleasure of doing this activity. So, hey guys, if you've stuck with me this far, thank you very much for doing so. Thank you for hanging in there. I know it's been an hour and a half, but I hope this wasn't all pointless or anything. I hope this has really spread the message out there, because I really think it was necessary, and I feel honored and I guess proud and happy if you've managed to stick all the way through to this point. And so, I don't know. If you did manage to stick out to this point, please, because you made the effort here. So, just based on the honor system, send me an email with the following numbers, okay? 57957. Send that to kevinbattleblood@hotmail.com, and you know what? I'll hold on to that email, and rather, I mean, I feel like you should be given something or so just for even sticking out this far, because I know it's an hour and a half of me talking about one thing. But you know what? Send those digits, and when I find something in the future, I'll definitely, send something back. I mean, hey, he deserves something other than just enlightenment. Let's just say that you've been agreeing with me like this entire time or something, or disagreeing, and you still listened. I mean, hey, thanks for your time. And I feel like, thanks for your time is just a minuscule phrase that I really appreciate, if you really stuck out this far, because I'm not just talking my voice off here for nothing. I'm hoping that I can make a little bit of an impact, or at least, change some minds out there. Because it's really dangerous when it gets to the point where some players are saying, but you want that free stuff, even just a little. Who doesn't like free stuff? And everyone would want free stuff. Someone offered you 1 million, you would take it. I mean, I guess, but there are some people out there who are just generous enough to take that million and invest it in something where someone else needs it. Where, whoever knows what that may be. I mean, not everyone is so individualistic. Again, the existence of these vlogs, of the official blogs and the official fan sites and the tool sites, show that there's that type of humanity out there. That we're not all in it for ourselves, right? We're in it for the benefit of the whole, the entire community. That's the overall meaning of that. That's why those fan sites and links exist. They're doing it for everyone. They're not in it for some kind of personal gain. And I mean that when I talk about Ravenwood Radio. Hey, the two hosts come home, and Steven sometimes even forgets to have dinner because he's having a great time just podcasting. He doesn't really. I mean, sure, maybe they get the freebies, but he didn't do that for that in the first place. He's still hanging on there even when freebies weren't given out for a while. Because he loves talking about Wizard 101. Same with Fallon here now. She likes to talk about things and maybe help some players out there who are have those frequently asked questions. Then you look at Friendly Necromancer here. He's blogging about Mythion, which I realized, like, oh wow, I didn't know that. I thought maybe the game was growing at some point, but it looks like, honestly, this post that there wasn't that many players. But he's still writing about it. He's still getting in touch with the community manager. I don't think it's for the freebies. No. I mean, it's not going to help him and his family in any way, especially if his family is able to play with him. Maybe Bailey Skystaff doesn't play Mythion with him because it's a little more hardcore out there. I don't know, with Wizard, it's fun, it's turn-based, it's simple and complex at the same time, not just one direction. So, I mean, if he's, he's not doing it for any kind of personal gain other than, hey, I like these games because I like these. They benefit me because they keep me busy and or entertained. That's it. Diary of a Wizard started as a blog and is now a community site. Why? You know what? Fallon Shadowblade. Really awesome. She invests a lot of resources, and that's why she does have the Zazzle items, or she does have those, support Diary Wizard, because it does take her time and her resources. She has her own family to worry about, but you know what? She also cares enough to invest time to start up this site right here, right? To allow for freedom of speech, to allow for, restricted freedom of speech, but it's not entirely like you can't reference, you can't post links, etc. You can do whatever you'd like. You can network, you can meet players, etc. And I don't, it doesn't look like there's any kind of danger that could come out of that. I mean, sure, there's potential danger anywhere that you go. But with her site, I don't see that much trolling on there. I don't see, a lot of uncomfortable people or users on that site. In fact, a lot of it is helpful, a lot of it is supportive. I really like it, and it's impressive to know that came from just a blog. Diary of a Wizard is now, a fan site. It's like, hey, that's awesome. There's so many ways you can support it by just, supporting, just saying, hey, the site's out here, get more viewers, etc. So she does a great job with that site, and at times it's kind of rough on money. Sometimes it relies on donations from other players too. But she's not in it for the goodies. She's not in it for the surprises. um, and those are the main sites that I just do want to point out, because um, if you look at their work, especially, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I guess you can even add Petnome in there, but I do run that, and with my teams, I don't know if that's objective enough to talk about. So, and again, once again, I know this is kind of broken record here, but do what you love because you love it, not because something will come out of it. So again, thanks for your time. I'm voiced out, and I need to get this uploaded. But again, thank you. You've stuck in this long. I applaud you, first of all, and then I really appreciate just hanging in there and hearing me out. It means a lot. It's I would love to type it, but I'm pretty sure you wouldn't want to read something that can rival War and Peace as well. So anyways, this is Battleblood, signing out, heading off, getting tired, and we'll see you in the spiral. So again, thank you for your time, and I really hope that that the positive energy for Wizard 101 and your hobby and whatever it does has returned for you. So, good night, good morning whenever you hear this, and I'll see you later. Bye.